Welcome to the Miller Report. This week, my guest is a household name in New York. He has an amazing career in law enforcement that has served New York and the entire nation. With 50 years of public service, I don't think there is another person alive who is an expert like this one that we have on the Miller Report today. From 2002 to 2013, he served as the police commissioner of New York under Mayor Bloomberg, and from 1992 to 1994 under Mayor Dinkins. In 2002, he created the first Counterterrorism Bureau of any municipal police department in the country. He's also established a new global intelligence program and stationed New York City detectives in 11 foreign cities. He's also the CEO of the Guardian Group. I want to welcome Ray Kelly to the Miller Report. I'm so honored that you'll talk to us, and boy, do we need you back. So thank you, and welcome Ray Kelly to the Miller Report. This means so much.
Well, great to be with you. Great to see you again.
Thank you.
And I'm looking forward to this.
Yes, I've been checking. You haven't done many interviews, so this is really going to be great. We're going to get this out. And my first question is, will you come back?
No, I think I've done that. I think the city has a lot of other competent people that could be named police commissioner. So it's past my time, but I'm certainly around to advise.
That's great. I'm sure with the election so close and all of these wars going on, everybody must be asking you questions about national security. But today I want to talk specifically about New York. One of the greatest things you did from 1992 was put more police agents, more police officers on the streets. About how many officers did you add around that time, would you say?
Well, it was something called a Safe Street, Safe City plan that was put together on Mayor Dinkins' watch. It had a lot of support by city elected officials, but not so much as far as the state is concerned. Peter Vallone was the speaker at that time of the city council, and he did a masterful job of getting that plan through Albany to enable the hiring of 5,000 police officers. It was a heavy lift in those days, but it was accomplished. And we ultimately were able to add 5,000 police to the then 3 police departments of New York City. It's interesting that Mayor Dinkins' advisors were not too happy with this plan because they didn't think it addressed the needs of his core constituents. So they sort of backloaded the plan. The hires were put towards the end of the Dinkins administration. And ironically, what happens, of course, the mayor was not reelected. Mayor Giuliani was elected, and those 5,000 extra police were a major help to Mayor Giuliani and his efforts to reduce crime.
Commissioner, why is it so difficult for us to recruit police officers today? Everybody I talk to, they want to leave. They're taking their compensation early. You can't recruit them. What do you think is the issue?
I think a lot of the problem stems from the death of George Floyd. It's a terrible event, no question about it. But in general, at least in my opinion, there was an overreaction to it. The cops were vilified. They were demonized. This is all over America, by the way, certainly not just in New York City. Laws were passed to actually punish the police. That was the word that was used. So it's not a welcoming environment. It is very difficult to hire police officers these days. They see what police officers are going through. There's a variety of reasons for it, but generally, I think you can put it under the rubric of unwelcoming environment on the part of the public and perhaps even city government.
I couldn't agree with you more, Commissioner, but no city will do well without law and order. No matter what side you're on, we need police officers. What do you think actionable can be done? Because we're in dire straits.
Well, a lot of things have to be done. Whether or not they will be done is an open question. I think the city council in many ways has become almost the enemy of the people. They put in all sorts of restrictions and and limiting factors on the police department. They keep doing it. They would have to change their approach, I think, for the city to turn it around as far as the ability of hiring police officers that are concerned. We can't say with specificity why police are leaving. And I think what should be done is a consulting firm, not a law enforcement consulting firm, but a reputable consulting firm, do exit interviews of New York City police officers, address the issues that are motivating so many of them to leave, or at least identify, I should say, and then try to address what can be addressed, making it a more desirable
Nobody's doing that now.
Place to work.
Is that being done now? Are any exit interviews being done now?
Exit interviews can be done. People don't have to sit for them.
Right.
So they have some knowledge, but when you're saying it to another police officer or a supervisor, it may not be your absolute clear, direct feeling. So that's why I say get an outside consulting firm to do that, like a McKinsey and Company. We've got McKinsey before to work in the department. And
great idea.
I'd like to see them hone it down and get some specifics that can possibly be addressed.
When you were in office, you had a lot of challenges, but one that comes to my mind was the World Trade Center bombing in 1993. You led your department. You really were involved in national security. From everything I've read, I used to watch the blinking lights. Yeah, red, yellow. Do we go on the subway today? Now, what do you think we are right now? What level of threat do you think we are right now in New York?
I think we always have to assume that in New York is at significant risk. It's seen as the capital of the world throughout the planet. We know that there are people plotting right now to try to do something here. Now, a lot of them are lone wolves. There are people that are either demented or they're just real zealots that want to hurt us here, hurt America. So there are things in place. Federal government agencies, NYPD, are doing things to protect us. But New York has 10 million people a day in it during the workday. Tremendous flow of people coming in and coming out. You need intelligence. The police department has a large intelligence gathering entity. They rely also, of course, on the federal agencies, but there are no guarantees. We have to face the fact that we're vulnerable here, and we have to have a posture that protects us as best as possible. There's only so much that you can do. As I say, the kind of flow of people in and out of New York on a daily basis is, it's like maybe Calcutta or someplace like that may have it, but we have a tremendous amount of traffic here that creates potential risks.
And I know we don't have we're guessing, but if you had to guess, do you think it would be cyber or physical?
Well, that's a good question. I think you have to anticipate both. There's no question about it that cyber has moved up as a potential area of threat. You see, you see the ransom hardware being put in place, or ransom programs, I should say. They're all over the world, and so the cyber threat is a big one, but we don't hear enough about it. And of course, there are always physical threats. There are always, as I say, these lone wolves that are planning or plotting, trying to come here. I think we being law enforcement, do a pretty good job of protecting the city from that. Hopefully, the cyber folks are doing an equally effective job. But there are a lot of risks in the world today, and it's good that we acknowledge them and face them head on.
I hope you left us in pretty good shape. I think you did. What about our power grids? How risky are they?
Our power grid is a vulnerability. No question about it. I don't know if you remember, I think it was 2003 when we had the Northeast power outage.
Yes.
It lasted for 4 days, and it impacted all on the eastern seaboard into Canada. It actually started in Canada, but it highlighted the vulnerabilities of our system. There are some safeguards put in place, but the fact of the matter is we're still quite vulnerable there. You'll see power grid entities being attacked in places like California. And again, they get not much press.
And we should have less. We should have less police officers. And we should have less police officers because it doesn't make any sense. We need more officers. We need more protection.
Well, that it goes back to the recruiting issue. We can't continue this hemorrhaging of police officers. They're still leaving the department in inordinately high numbers. And don't forget, it costs a lot of money to train the police officer. When they're walking out the door, they're walking out with that expertise, experience that's been built over the years, and we lose all of that. So it's actually a very smart thing, just in terms of budget, to be able to slow that down. That's why I say we need those efforts to determine exactly what's causing this outflow of police officers.
I always tell my developers that I think it's a good idea to have police officers in their buildings. Do you think that if we offered compensation to police officers in buildings, that would encourage them to stay in the department? Is housing an issue?
You know, it's been tried in other cities. Mm-hmm. We did some of it years ago as far as making apartments and housing projects available. Mm-hmm. The feedback is that they didn't want to be known as the local police officer. They didn't want knocks at 2:00 in the morning to handle a domestic dispute. They wanted to be able to do their 8 or 8.5 hour job and then go home. And they didn't want to wear that police shield 24 hours a day. So, it's an idea that probably is worth giving it another shot. But in the past, it hasn't really worked out.
I'm glad you answered that for me. So let's move on to the election, which is coming up so soon. As a security expert like yourself, do you think that our election process is adequately protected?
Well, in our Constitution, it says that the states are responsible for elections, mm-hmm. which means that you have 50 potential security systems to address voting security. So I think some things have been put in place after the last election that better safeguard the systems. But again, here there are no guarantees. It's a sort of a hodgepodge of different systems that protect voting. Your right to vote. This is going to be a big test because I think it's fair to assume that there were significant irregularities in a couple of our past elections. So we're going to see what happens. There has been a concerted effort on the part of the political parties to better protect the system, but there are no guarantees here either.
It's crazy. And what about the FBI and the Secret Service? Do you have confidence in these organizations with everything that's gone on?
I think both agencies need to sort of take a clean sheet of paper and take a look at what they're doing, what their core functions are. When I was in the federal government, I was the Undersecretary of Treasury. One of my responsibilities was to oversee the Secret Service. And in those days, this is in the Clinton administration, in my view, they were an effective, well-led organization. Now, the horrific mistakes that were made in Butler, Pennsylvania, as far as President Trump is concerned, absolutely unconscionable, and there's no excuse for that. So they need to do an in-depth examination, or somebody does. Maybe it's an external agency. It takes a look at them and take a look at some of the kind of standard protected things that we do. Maybe they're not right. For instance, they only carry sidearms. Is that the right thing to do? Sniper teams are just recently been deployed during this campaign season. One of the dangers to the president, is that when they do rope lines, and the agent or two agents walk along with the president. They need to be physical, large, strong people. And this is not. I think we need equal opportunities for women, no question about it, everywhere. But I think in terms of the physical protection of our principle, you need some adept individuals who can protect the physical body of the president, not just from gunshots, which is the assumption, but actually from physical assault. So I think that a reworking of their mission. Now, one of the things that people have looked at, I've looked at myself, Tom, is they have a lot of ancillary duties. They do financial crimes. They do counterfeiting. And is that too much? They have 8,000 employees. That's a lot of people. They also have probably too many protectees. They now have 32 protectees. After 9/11, they took on more individuals to protect. That may, believe it or not, even with 8,000 employees, that may spread them too thin. So these have to be looked at. As far as the FBI, I think there's clear information that shows that they were involved in the campaign of 2016 and 2020. I don't think that should be. FBI should be totally neutral.
Can you elaborate? What do you mean involved in the campaign?
And I think that that's something that cannot be allowed to happen again.
Involved in what way?
Sorry?
Involved in what way in the campaign?
Well, we know that the Steele dossier, which was allowed to be entered into evidence and allowed FISA warrants to be issued to the FBI, that turned out to be, as you know, a totally false document. Yet, and employees of the FBI actually changed some of the information that was being given to judges. That one person, who was an FBI attorney, was given a very light sentence. So if you look at the history of the 2016 and 2020 campaigns, there was, and there should be, concern about the political influence that the agency got involved in. And I don't think that should ever be.
It sounds like you want to do an overhaul, and it sounds like we need to do an overhaul on everything that's going on. But I just wanted to wrap this up back to New York, because I know you're pressed for time, and it keeps me up at night. I mean, we are so vulnerable. There's 10 million people coming in and out, and whether it's cyber or physical, we are vulnerable. Raymond, Commissioner, who's running the police department now? Who's running New York City? What are you seeing? I mean, every day the mayor's leaving, and Bill Banks, I thought he was a good guy. Now he's gone. Can you tell us what is happening?
I wish I could. I don't know. It looks like there's a lot of disarray, and disarray in the police department as well. Though I think the cops will always do their job. But yeah, and people are concerned here. And people are concerned about these allegations against the mayor, and then all the people who've had their phones taken by the FBI. Now, you can't just prejudge them based on that. But the old saying is, where there's smoke, there's fire. So that's a lot. There's a lot of people that are apparently under investigation. I hope we can get back to some sense of normalcy. I live here. I want to live here. I'm going to die here. The New York is still, in my mind, the greatest city in the world. But it is, and I think in order to stay a premier city, we have to do some really significant changes as far as the quality of life is concerned. That's what's diminished. That's what's, in my view, forcing people to leave the city. There's several 100,000 fewer people living in New York than there were just 5 years ago, 10 years ago. So New York will always be in New York. There'll always be wealthy people living here. There'll probably always be poor people living here. But the middle class is being threatened, and they're leaving. And the upper middle class, they're leaving. The taxpayers, taxes here are the highest in the country. So I think the quality of life and taxes are what's forcing people out. We need a heroic mayor to come in. Someone like perhaps Michael Bloomberg person to come back and who's self-funded, who's not beholden to any political clubhouses, who can lead the city back to where it should be. Anybody in mind? No, because well, it is a very tough job, and most people will have those resources are probably smarter than that to take on the job. It's I know there are people out there, but there has to be a real calling, devotion to the city. What do you think of Andrew? What do you think of Andrew Cuomo coming back? Well, Andrew Cuomo is a personal friend of mine, and we went to the same high school. His father was my teacher in law school. I think it's going to be a heavy lift. I think that there are a lot of forces against him. You think he'll help us? You think he'll do a good job? I'm sorry? Do you think he'll turn it around if he gets elected? Do I think he would do a good job? Yeah. I mean, he's a competent leader. Mm-hmm. But I think getting past the hurdles, the real world political hurdles, would be pretty difficult, pretty challenging for him. So last question. If you were in charge again and you had to advise, and I'm sure you think about this all the time, what advice would you give the next police commissioner to help turn this around? What is the biggest thing you would think that they need to do? Well, the department is a very complex place. I used to liken it to the Vatican. It has 54,000 employees. You now have people overseas. The commissioners, when they come from outside, need to learn the organization, the intricacies, complexities, the traditions of the department. I think there's been like 8 police commissioners, 6 or 8 police commissioners since I left. That's much too much of a turnover. So commissioner should really dig in and find out the core operations of the department. Go out on patrol, see what the cops are up against. Obviously, meet with community groups. I did that certainly to my benefit. It helped me continue to learn about the city. And it's a great organization. It has great traditions. It just needs strong leadership, and hopefully, it's getting it, or it will get. So you think it's continuity? Well, you have been the best, most successful police commissioner in my time, and I want to thank you for coming on the Miller Report and giving us this interview. And if you think of anybody to endorse, please let us know. We'll go viral. Okay. So I look forward to seeing you. Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you so much. Thanks.